Yeah. Good morning, everybody. I'd like to call today's Judicial and Public Safety Committee meeting to order. It is Thursday, July 16th, 2026 at 9 a.m. May I please have roll call to establish quorum?
Gripe,
Right here.
Gums, Linder,
Here.
Tepe,
Here.
Williams.
Williams present,
Leonard.
remote.
Oh, thank you. Leonard,
Leonard here.
Molina,
Molina present.
Roth.
Roth is here.
Quorum.
Okay, we have in-person quorum. I have a remote attendance request from Mr. Williams. Any objection to allowing Mr. Williams to participate remotely? Okay, seeing none, Mr. Williams, welcome. Next on the agenda is approval of minutes. I'll entertain a motion for unanimous consent for the approval of minutes for June 11th, 2026.
Right moves for unanimous consent for acceptance of the minutes from June 11th, 2026.
Any objections? Consent is granted. Minutes are approved. Public comment. We do have some members of the public wishing to provide comment, and I'm going to go in alphabetical order. So first on is Mr. Brian Anderson.
Good morning, Brian Anderson, Sugar Grove. I'm here today. I'm going to be skipping around. I was actually a couple of board members on both sides of the aisle. Hey, we've got some concerns with flock. So I'm actually not prepared because the little research I did this morning, such as Evanston, they eliminated flock. Well, because the data was getting sent to our federal government, Homeland Security, and for ICE. You're talking to a citizen here. I'm all for that, right? Now, on the flip side of that, I don't want big brother. I don't want big data tracking me. But at the end of the day, if you are here illegally, I want you out. I want you gone. Into conversation. That's it on the flock for now. I am here because I know Bill Leonard is the chair of the Finance Committee. A couple other people I see here as well. I usually speak at the Finance and the Executive and the full county board meeting. But in lieu of the conversation yesterday with the state's attorney and the undersheriff, I'm going to share with this group my sentiments that I said yesterday. I think going forward, especially with the Safety Act and the issues with budget, that it is prudent that we have monthly budget reports to the full county board. We establish a warning threshold. If the sheriff's department is 2.2 million and we're 2.1 in July, we have issues. The entire board needs to know. Every stakeholder that it works for the Kane County government that's involved with budgets needs to know. Lastly, I'm here today because there is a group of citizens crying around about what ICE is doing. Now, if I'm not mistaken, and I do not like to share something that's not true, based on all my data, the Venezuelan is actually that hit national news. It's everywhere. Everybody in this room knows that. He's supposedly in Kane County Jail right now, and today is supposed to be a court appearance. So I'm going to leave everybody in this room with my sentiments as a citizen. Impede with law enforcement, expect consequences. There's a group of people, they want to go and harass and heckle these men and women that try to do their jobs. I'm all for freedom of speech. I'm all for protesting, but they have to be careful not to cross that line. The video clip that Denise Therabolt, a citizen, showed to the entire board. You run out in front of the cars. Listen, all law enforcement, they're trained on situational awareness. I have no idea if I'm a law enforcement agency, what's coming at me. So impede law enforcement, expect consequences. And I'm thankful for the men and women that protect and serve in this county. And that includes the ICE agents over at the courthouse. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Next up is Ms. Betz-Hag.
Good morning, Michelle Betz-Hag. I'm speaking as the Kane County Republican Chairwoman for the Republicans. I am just pointing out in 2024, December of 2024, the two murders that took place by the Venezuelan at Emma's Landing, the stabbing murders that happened there. In November of 2025, Green Parag and many of the Democrats on this board made a proclamation to let the ICE agents down and give the illegals priority by refusing the right to let them stage or process on county property. This to me is just another statement saying that the illegals are taking precedence over Kane County citizens. A Wall Street Journal article in 2024 said that Kane County, they pointed out that Kane County, Illinois, has increased their illegal immigrant status, or their flooding into our county by 17-fold. They were specifically mentioned, Kane County was specifically mentioned. Carpentersville is being overrun. So the state's attorney mentioned that she doesn't notice or know the numbers of increased in the judicial system, which is it's hard to believe that that's true. These people that are trying to create chaos at the county, at the judicial center, these people aren't taking their children to Dairy Queen and being attacked. These people are coming out from being processed or in jail or whatever their hearings. I defend, we stand with the young woman or the young child who was brutally raped, ripped off her bicycle in Pingree Grove. It's disgusting that Kane County is defending criminals, illegally criminals over Kane County citizens. And I stand that this board is taking precedence or making it a priority and taking marching orders from Pritzker to get the people here, to give them housing on the backs of Kane County citizens. We pay we're the 28th highest taxes out of almost 3,300 counties in Kane County. We have a nice way of life. I love our police department. Great. Everything is wonderful. Support ICE. I support them 1,000%. But I support our children because right now it's disgusting to see that people are taking illegals' rights over American citizens. If these people were not here, I have no problem with legal immigrants coming over here and doing it properly. I just want to make that super clear. But the people that are here, they broke the law coming in, and everyone's expecting them to do the law and follow the law while they're here. Thank you.
Okay, next is Ms. Jeannie Mayer.
Good morning. My name's Janine Mayer. I'm from Elburn. I'm here representing the parents and taxpayers of King County who are fed up with the preventable tragedies that are happening in our very backyard. Just 3 weeks ago in Pingree Grove, right here in King County, as we all know, we heard the story, 9-year-old girl was ripped off her bicycle on Cape Cod Lane by a 41-year-old Venezuelan national. He forced her into a car, sexually assaulted her. It's a parent's worst nightmare. He now faces Class X felonies, aggravated kidnapping of a child, predatory criminal sexual assault, and more. Today, July 16th, he appears in court, King County Judicial Center, while being held in jail. This is not one isolated failure. This happened because dangerous criminals who have no right to be here are not being removed. ICE placed a detainer, yet Illinois sanctuary policies and political resistance continue to tie the hands of law enforcement. How many more children must suffer before we stop protecting the criminals instead of our precious children? ICE officers are the good guys. They're federal agents working to protect American families by enforcing our immigration laws and deporting threats. They deserve our full support, not obstruction from politicians who prioritize open border ideology over child safety. Local police in Pingree Grove in Hampshire did their job quickly and professionally. Now it's time for our leaders to do theirs. Kane County must demand full cooperation with ICE detainers. No more sanctuary nonsense that endangers our communities. Public safety must come first. I urge the board to take a strong stand, support our law enforcement, back ICE, and put King County families ahead of failed policies that invite chaos. Our children cannot wait. Thank you.
Okay, and that is the end of public comment. Next on our agenda is the monthly financial reports. Would anybody like to bring up anything regarding the monthly financial reports? Blair, could you scroll over to them? I think Mr. Gripe has a question.
Yes. Back to what the board talked about in the board meeting about getting monthly updates from every department, not just the ones in this committee, but it would be great each month if when all of you and everybody else for that matter reports, if we could get a above water, below water, wherever I am by how much, just an FYI for us, just a simple kind of update would be helpful. So if there's a problem coming, we can help with it. That'd be great.
Thank you, Mr. Gripe. Yeah, along that same line, if kind of when we're providing our reports, if you notice that you're, Blair, could you go to that next page? So on the monthly financial reports, we have the revenues coming in, and then we have the expenditures. And then you'll see, go to the next page, Blair, just so everybody kind of is aware where the way these reports are filed. On our expenditures, it tells you on that last column what percentage we are. We are in July, but I think these are up to June. So if anybody has any concerns as to where they're at with their either contractuals, I think are one of the biggest ones that we can't really, they kind of come in at different times of the year, and then wages and overtime. So if you guys can kind of highlight if you have any concerns with particularly those three areas while you're providing your report, I think that'll be helpful. Because we do want this communication to go back and forth. We'll be asking the questions, and if you guys can provide that information, it'll help us kind of have an idea of where we're at. Okay. Anything else on financial reports right now? Okay, we will move on. I don't have anybody here from the Merit Commission. So we will go on to KCOM. Ms. Guthrie, good morning.
Good morning. Our reports are in the packet, and as you can see, June was a busy month. We had a lot of activity. It's summer, in addition to summer storms. Notably, you can see the Kane County Sheriff's Office had an increase in activity, about 800 calls for service last month. This is again due to the storms, busy activity, traffic stops, officer-initiated activity, COPA, community policing activity, and just regular volume of activity. So if anybody has any questions about the reports in terms of activity, please let me know. I do want to talk about our priority as well, which is our hiring update. Since June, we have had 2 rounds of testing. We had a testing with applicants on the 10th. We had 13 attend, 5 passed and went on to the interview process and are currently in the background screening. We had another testing last night at 3 p.m. in the auditorium. 11 attended. We're in the process of reviewing those results right now. We have 1 telecommunicator in training. We hired another telecommunicator in training on the 22nd of June. He was with us for about 2 weeks and realized the demands of the job and how much there is to learn. And although we go through a very thorough vetting process and describe, all aspects of the job to our applicants, he just decided it wasn't a great fit for him. We had another telecommunicator in training who just started on Monday, and she is completing her classroom training with Deputy Director Stofa right now. Are there any questions about hiring before I just move into a couple comments about the budget?
Any questions for our director?
No.
Yes, Ms. Gums, go ahead.
I just have a comment. I'm glad to hear that. I didn't know that we were hiring that many, so I applaud that effort, and hopefully we can get them through, because I know we're in a situation. So if there's anything you need, holler.
Thank you. One of the other things we're going to examine kind of hiring is our contract allows us to hire experienced telecommunicators as well, but we haven't really advertised for something like that. So that's something we're going to be kind of targeting that audience next. I know a lot of surrounding agencies offer some sort of incentive when it comes to laterals, but we're going to advertise for our telecommunicator posting, which is always open on the county website, and we do social media pushes that way. And then we will do kind of a separate posting for lateral telecommunicators to see if there's any interest out there for, applicants that have had, a recent 3 years of experience and want to either come back to 911 or make a change. So that's another effort we'll be making.
Ms. Gums, are you volunteering?
Sure.
3 years or less.
Yes. No. I just have a couple comments. Comes again. I think I brought this up a while ago about the hiring incentive situation. And I don't know, everybody here is probably aware, but across the country, 911 dispatch is short-staffed. They just are across the whole country. And I don't know what the obligation of this committee is, but if we need to do some kind of hiring bonus, I know it's worked for other agencies, and I'm throwing it out into the ether as an option. I don't know that our director would ask us directly for that. Maybe not. I don't know, but I'm throwing it out there because if it works for other agencies, it might work for us. So it's worthy of a conversation.
Thank you for bringing that up. I really haven't spoken publicly about this before, and we're just kind of brainstorming with our management team, what does work. We are working with our consultant right now in terms of our study, and I'm interested in, the hiring process and the training process is part of that. And I'm interested in feedback from our consultant as well as what's working with other agencies and what have they seen success with. So maybe in the interim, that's something I can reach out to them with and see if they've, in their experience in 911, found success in that, and if there's something that works across the nation.
Thank you for that. I know but ultimately this committee maybe should have the conversation at some point offline about that, because I don't know what it looks like, Mr. Leonard, financially, but if it's going to help us overall, save us in mandatory overtime, that's just
Mhm.
something we really should think about.
Thank you, Ms. Combs. And as we know, the majority, the 911 center is fully funded by subscriber fees and special. So, I guess talk to us a little bit about your update on the financials right now
On
regarding
the budget,
that.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So we are special revenue. Our revenue is collected from our subscribing agencies, and I did want to note that I just sent out their invoices for 2026. So those bills have gone out, and we will begin collecting our revenue as we receive those. We also receive revenue from our 911 surcharge, and that legislation continues out there. That is important in additional funding. As a note to our budget specifically, our ETSB, our Emergency Systems Telephone Board, there are qualifying expenses that we can go back to our ETSB and ask for reimbursement for. And I am waiting on some of those reimbursements. So headsets, training, equipment, recorder maintenance fees. We have a meeting this month, and I have quite a few reimbursements that we'll be requesting when we go to ETSB today. So there's always some money that's in flux while we wait for those reimbursements. So if anybody has any specific questions about our budget, please let me know. But of course, I do note that overtime is trending high, and we're aware of why.
Okay, any questions regarding the financials? Ms. Combs?
I'm sorry, I just want to, the public often needs to know this part too. On the surcharge legislation, often people ask what our lobbyists do. Our lobbyists, Ms. Guthrie came to me with the request, and our lobbyists are supportive of that increase, or that piece of legislation, and they are working that circuit to try and get that legislation done.
Thank you. I think it's been extremely helpful to have the support of our legislative committee as well as our lobbyists and, our 911 community doing everything we can for this absolutely much needed funding.
Okay, anything, Mr. Grape?
To your comment, Michelle, you kind of answered half of the question I was going to ask. Where does it stand? Do you know how it's looking and when it might come up for a vote?
Madam Chair, if I may, Gums here. So I do know where it's at. We do have, biweekly meetings. We have updates, and I will tell you that our lobbyist team has sat directly with the sponsors of this request, and it's looking really good for veto session. Let's just say that. So the piece of legislation that we're talking about, in short, the fee that has been charged hasn't been increased in a very, very long time, as is everything standard, right? So I think the ask was 1%.
$1.
$1. And I think through our efforts, we asked for a little bit more so we don't have to come back so quickly. And I think it's looking really good. I don't think we'll have any issues with it. That's just my intuition.
If I may.
Yes, 'cause-
Not that we're
No, go
chat
ahead.
here, but thank you, Michelle. But I'm thinking in a perfect world, it passes. How long does it take before that money can flow through to King Cup?
Really depends on the date of signature and when it takes effect. So I'll touch base with you later, but
Okay.
it really depends on that. So.
All right, thank you.
And Ms. Gums, that's $1 on our, what service would be charged an extra $1 for this? Is this for the your cell phone bill, or what, how are we?
Yes, so on your cell phone bill, like, I don't know the actual numbers, Ms. Guthrie, maybe you could
Yes.
explain that better,
I can
but
explain it.
yes.
Yes, there's a, right now it's, excuse me, there's $1.50 charge on everybody's cell phone bill for 911. That it, as Ms. Gums said, it hasn't been increased since 2018. In 2018, it was 85 cents. So since 2018, we have the implementation of next generation 911, increased technology, maintenance of that next generation 911 system, more demands on our staff and training, more staff needed, increased volume of activity. So the zip code where your cell phone bill is, like my phone, right? It comes back to my zip code. That is where that $1.50 then is transferred to. And there's a formula out there where it funnels through your emergency system telephone board. There's a pass through from the state through the ETSB. And then based on the percentage of service in your area, that determines the rate that you get. So again, in 2018, we had 85 cents. It was much needed when we went to $1.50. We did ask as the 911 community for just $1 more to increase that to $2.50. As Ms. Gums said, more is needed, but we were trying as a group to say what's feasible now, what can we get now? But anything on top of that would be very necessary. And I will note that Chicago has $5. So the rate in Chicago is $5 per bill. So that's what they receive in Cook County. And it's a $2.50 base rate and then another $2.50 on top of that. So we're not asking for that. We're just asking for $1 increase to sustain our operations.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, Mr. Leonard?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Michelle, could you tell me with respect to that $1 surcharge, which I'm in full of support of? Oh, sorry. I'll speak a little bit closer. With that $1 surcharge, additional surcharge, what amount of dollars will come to you directly? Do you know?
I do not have that right off the top of my head, but I will get that number for you.
Oh, that'd be great. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you. Another thing I kind of wanted to bring up, not specific to CANCOM, was I was listening to the administration meeting yesterday, and we were discussing GIS and the connection GIS has with the judicial and public safety kind of partners. So I'd like to hopefully, I'll talk to Mr. Lasky offline, but maybe in September kind of have a presentation as to the connection GIS has to what we do here in JPS and the importance that GIS plays. So if maybe Michelle and Charles and I can kind of work on that presentation. I think it'd be great for this committee to look at. Okay, anything else for CANCOM?
Actually, King
Yes.
has one more thing. Sorry, go ahead.
Actually, I just have one final thing again I know this and I'm sorry to always like capitalize on
No
this
worries. No.
conversation, but something that we learned on 9/11 was a lot of systems failed. And so investment in these systems and that costs money, like all over the board, our Office of Emergency Management, all those things failed at some time. So when your gut's going, God, I don't want to pay another dollar. Sometimes we have to invest in the important stuff. So just throwing that out there.
Thank you. And I will add the technology and the staff, right? Because it's paying for the technology and our very valuable staff. Something I really haven't talked much about, but we're going to talk more about in the next coming months is CESA, and that is the integration between 911 and 988. So with 988, which is a suicide hotline, the crisis line, there's going to be more overlap. It's something we've been working on for a couple of years. It is state mandated, and it will require our staff when they receive a 911 call, if it fits a specific criteria that doesn't warrant a law enforcement response, we will begin to transfer these type of calls to the crisis center for a mental health response. So I won't talk too much about that today, but in the next couple months, as we talk about presentations, as at GIS, this will be something else that's coming down through the state of Illinois. So around Illinois, there's a couple centers that are, they call them cohorts, where they are in the demo kind of phase of this, but it will be slowly rolled out within the state, and I will be talking about that more in the next coming months.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, next is emergency management. Scott, you haven't really been busy this month, have you?
Yes, it's been a little busy. I have just a few updates and then a presentation on, if you hadn't heard, we had a flood. Our joint emergency management system program is moving along nicely. We had our second meeting with interested subscribers. We're sitting at about 10 or 12 communities that are interested. And we're in the middle of shaping that program and finalizing what the subscription amount would be and how that relates to budgets and all that. The beauty of it is all of the additional employees that it would take is going to be 100% funded by the municipalities that are going to pay anywhere between probably 13,000 to 28,000 a year, depending on their size. So that will provide professionals to help them with pre-disaster planning, training, and exercising, something that is missing in those communities. And so we're excited about that. We're also working a lot with Disaster Hurricane and I'll talk a little about that in the presentation, but we're dividing up into subcommittees and figuring out what each committee is doing, and that's moving along nicely. We also finalized a logo, so there's going to be, you'll start to see some stuff out on the internet. There'll be a website coming and some social media and some fundraising efforts. So that's moving nicely. And then just a note, we had a severe weather on June 10th. Initially, it was thought to be straight line winds, and then a couple of weeks later, the National Weather Service confirmed it to be an EF0 tornado. So that became our first tornado of 2026, and I believe the first since 2024 when we had 12. So, you know, we've had a lot of those, and in my almost 3 years with the county, none of those have come even close to qualifying for any kind of federal disaster assistance. And next, I'll talk about the flood, which is very close to that. If you could put the power, there we go. All right, so just the overall summary. So if you remember, we had the heat wave last week of June. Going into the 4th of July weekend, we had 2 days of thunderstorms, and then the real magic happened on the 4th of July when we had significant flash flooding. So this is the overall rainfall for those 3 days. You can see I have Kane County circled. The darkest red is at the southern end of the county. Sugar Grove and Aurora Airport area got the most. And as you went north, the amounts lessened, but significant amount of rain that I'm just not sure there's any solution for. What happens when 8-9 inches of rain falls in a few days. Those that remember the Aurora flood in '96, still that was a lot more rain, but when that concentrated amount of rain falls, there's nowhere for it to go, and the storm sewer systems don't take that much water, and the water goes somewhere, and that's what happened here. So these are some of the just high level summary of the storm reports we got. In Pingree Grove, there was a weather station that reported just about 5 inches of rain in 45 minutes. So it came down really hard. And I'll skip down to Doberman Road near Big Rock. There was a report of 4 feet of water passing over Doberman Road. And I think everyone's probably heard by now of the culvert on Scott Road west of Doberman was washed out. The KDOT estimates it's going to be about $100,000 to fix. When I talk about federal disaster aid, one thing that we're nowhere near on that, there's different kinds of programs. One of those is called public assistance, and that's meant for governments. That's meant for government expense to reimburse that. But the threshold for Kane County is 2.3 million per event. So every government in Kane County would have to get to $2.3 million. And then in addition to that, the state overall would have to have about 24 million in government expenses due to that storm. In this case, I haven't gotten detailed numbers, but no other government in the county has reported anything of significance. Even North Or Village Hall had a sewage backup, but I believe it was covered by insurance. So those damages are uninsured damages. So there's not going to be public assistance coming for this. When we do get that, it comes in the form of usually 75% of your damages gets reimbursed to you. And I don't think up here in the county has reached that in many, many years. It's just such a high bar, and it's based on a formula based on the number of people. It's like $4.60 per citizen in your area. So these are just some photos. The one on the left is actually a video. I don't know, Blair, if you click it, would it play? This is unincorporated Aurora off of Church Road, and you can just see the water flowing across the street and through the yard. It's almost a river. And when they'll show you the side of the house, and it's going a couple inches, along the side of the house. And that the back of that area, that when they look through in the garages, I think it looks like it's flooded back there. That's not a river or a lake or anything. I looked at the map. It's just a big grassy area, so it's obviously flooded. So that's a lot of water. And then similar situation on the right in Elgin, with that amount of water. This is a photo though. We had several reports of people having water come in through basement windows. just the force of the water broke out windows. And when you have that much water, it doesn't matter what kind of drainage you have. When the water's that high, it's going to the lowest point, which is going to be your basement. So these are just some other photos. Ranking Road in Pingree Grove had quite a bit of water. And then there's the Scott Road wall. Of course, we don't have any video of 4 feet of water flowing over there, but that's a lot of water to do that kind of damage. So we just put online a public self-report survey in 2024 for one of the tornadoes. We sent a little army of people out to into the community to do this work. And this was a survey that the public could submit themselves. And we got 255 reports. Out of those, 59 were reported as major. And the way the federal government rates these is by the number of majors. So it's basically, I'll just say significant damage uninsured. When we've had all these tornadoes, we've not gotten anywhere near that number because most people, if you tore your roof off, that was covered by your homeowner's insurance. However, most people don't have flood insurance. You're required to have it if you live in a floodplain, but most people don't live in a floodplain. So when we have a flood like this, almost nobody has flood insurance. And that's why you get this kind of impact. So this is the data by community. Obviously, Aurora was the hardest hit. They had 89 reports and 31 majors, and on down the line, Elgin and North Aurora had quite a few for their relative size of Aurora and Elgin. And so you could see and another thing we asked on this questionnaire was if people needed assistance. So 80 people asked for debris removal assistance, 15 for emotional assistance. Basically, they wanted somebody to talk to about the stress of all this. And then 65 requested financial assistance. The picture there is some of my staff and volunteers. We gave people a script and they made phone calls to people that requested these various kinds of assistance, especially the debris removal. Now, I'm struck by how little we can really help these people. Some people had 8 feet of water in their basement, and there's no one coming to help them, really. Not yet. I'll get to what might be coming in a minute. But we offered them all we could offer them, which was a cleanup kit. We had a stock of Red Cross cleanup kits that we have been sitting on a pallet in our garage since I think 2016. And we asked them, would you like a cleanup kit? And it's a 5-gallon bucket with some cleaner, some bleach, some rubber gloves, a mop, and a squeegee. And a bunch of people asked for that. And then I think on one of I'll get to the numbers in a minute, but these are other pictures. So if you, the one on the left, you can see water's coming in that door. And then the height of the water here this is a couple inches. A lot of these homes qualified for major because it damaged their mechanicals, their furnace, their water heater, things like that. And that's what jumped them up to a major damage category. These are some more. So if you see the one on the left, that's a door, and the water level looks like it's just above doorknob level. And there's others that reported 8 feet of water. One of the negative things about our survey was people submitted horrible pictures. They weren't very good. These are some of the best ones, but clearly people don't have the picture taking abilities as others. But so a lot of damage. So what we did during the night, we responded numerous road closures. I don't even know how many. I think there were dozens. Because of flooding and all that. We had people out blocking roads and all that. They put barricades up and then spent a couple days after going out to pick up all the barricades that were out there. Our EOC tracked storm reports, road closures, and windshield damage surveys. And then we distributed 60 Red Cross cleanup kits. That was from making phone calls and people said, yeah, I'd like a kit. And then we had volunteers each evening that would load some up in a truck and would drop them off at their house. Now, I feel like this is a drop in the bucket. It's something we could do, but it's so little. But we had such a great response from people. We got emails and phone calls thanking us. And I don't think it was because of the bucket, because you could go to Home Depot and get the same bucket and the stuff probably for, under $50. But it was they saw that somebody cared. And that went a long way, but still in the scheme of things, we really can't go and help people tear out their carpet or their drywall. We just don't have people for that. We referred 15 people to the health department for referral to emotional care partners. So obviously we don't have Disaster Decane up and running quite yet. Oops. Oh, what happened there? All right. So, but we were able to refer them because they had professionals that could be referred to, to make referrals and get those people some help. So, and then we also worked with the health department to get food and mold safety information out to the public on social media. And then also when the cleanups kits went out, we made a folder of information to give them. So that's what we did. As far as is assistance coming, the other day I sent a letter to IEMA requesting a lot of terminology, but it's a preliminary damage assessment to pursue a small business administration physical damage disaster declaration. Even though it's the small business administration, it applies to homeowners. And what it is it's low interest loans. It's not a check, it's a loan. But the next step is, and we believe next Wednesday, we'll be going out in the field with IEMA and SBA to verify the damage. To qualify, we need 25 confirmed majors countywide. Right now, like I said, we're sitting on like 59 of them. So we only need 25 of them to be confirmed. So I feel like we're in a good situation to qualify for that. Once we do, those loans will be made available. They would take some SBA people and they would open up an office, and then we would find a location for them. Could be here, could be some of our harder hit communities. If we can find a space in, like, say, Village Hall somewhere, that's what you do. Also comes with an economic injury disaster loan program, and that's non-physical damage. That's for businesses. If they had to be closed and they lost whatever amount of money they would have made on a particular day, or they lost inventory because their power outage, and if you're a restaurant and your freezer's thawed, things like that, you can apply for a loan to get that stuff. So it's not the greatest in the world because it's a loan, not a grant, but that's what we have to offer. And that's all there is. And like I said, I was struck by that's all we can do. And you had 8 feet of water in your basement, and someone might show up and say, hey, here's a loan. You got to make sure you pay it back though. And I don't know what the solution is, because I also figure the federal government probably can't afford to send a $10,000 check to every single person in the nation who had their basement flooded. But I don't know what the answer is to help people like this, other than hopefully Disaster Recane, which is getting up and running. Hopefully we'll be able to assemble a small army of people that we could then dispatch to go help people rip out their carpet if they want that help, and for all these other things. We did just settle on a logo. There it is. And you'll be seeing, hopefully in the next couple of months, some advertisements and some fundraising efforts. We have partnered with the United Way of Fox Valley. So there's a fundraising page on there that they can accept the money, and they hold it on Disaster Recane's behalf. So down the line, that money might be able to go to help somebody.
Scott, going back to the SBA loans, people who would qualify, would it be limited to those people who had submitted surveys and had major damage, or
No.
is that going to be open to anybody who
Who
could
had
show?
damage for that event.
Okay.
Now, there's part of, I said, man, it'd be nice if anybody could apply, because I might apply if I could get a low interest loan and refinance my mortgage into 2.75%, but it's only somebody who had damage during that event. You don't have to be a major. You don't have to have submitted your data into our survey. It sounds kind of bad, but when we do these surveys, we're looking for the majors. Not to say someone who had less than major isn't important, because it's obviously a big deal, even if you got an inch of water in your basement, but the majors is the benchmark. And so we do this, and we go out and find the majors. Years ago, when I did this, when I was in North Aurora, I was struck, I didn't know this at the time, and I was struck by, yeah, here's a lot of damage here, and they didn't care. They only wanted to know where the majors was. Now I know why, because the number of majors is what gets you as assistance. If you don't have 25 majors, there's no assistance. So it is nice that if you apply for that loan, you have to qualify. I don't know what the qualification standards are, but you can usually refinance existing things into that. So you take $30,000 to repair your basement, you might roll that into refinancing your mortgage, and you might not have an increase in your payment. So like I said, that's the best thing that we can offer people right now. And I figure my job is to qualify us for that, to open up that benefit for people if they want to take it.
And then you'll let us know if we're able to qualify. We'll send out a press release or something to notify
Yeah, and
everybody.
it also is available to contiguous counties. So there's some other counties that have qualified for some of the various events the June 10th tornado, I think that was LaSalle County. And so any of whom is contiguous also qualify. So if we qualify for this, then DuPage and McHenry and Kendall and all the others, they'll qualify as well. And it's open to anybody who had damage during that event, because they figure we might be the hardest hit, but those around us still might have some damage. So when any of those that apply to us, whether it's us or a contiguous county, we'll make sure to work with Julie Mann and get that out.
Great. Okay. Any questions? We'll go Mr. Tepe and then Mr. Grape.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First off, Scott did a great job of keeping us informed. We appreciate that. I know at the county board meeting, I mentioned in particular your group and KDOT. I know you guys work together, so that's really phenomenal. When somebody gets a lower interest loan, do you know what rate it's at, or?
What I've heard thrown around is 2.75%.
Okay, so and that you would help them decide which financial organization to go with?
No, it's through SBA.
Yeah.
It's not through a bank or anything.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Grape.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'll echo what Vern said, thank you. And thank you to the Sheriff's Department. I mean, a whole bunch of people were helping with this. But I was curious, you mentioned emotional support. There were requests for that. What resource would you use? And I got a couple other questions, but what resource for that?
Well, we part of Disaster Hurricane is there's a committee, a part of that we're building providers into that. And so some of it is spiritual, because if you have those things, some people want to talk to clergy or some kind of a religious organization. And then some people want to talk to like behavioral, I don't know what the terminology is, an expert, a doctor or a psychologist or somebody like that. And so we have both of those kind of those specialties on this particular committee. And we're in the process of setting up the committee. And then once they've organized, then part of that is to have providers be a part of that, to be a resource, to be referred to them.
Would 988 be able to help in that case?
Possibly.
Okay, just something to think about. The pumping water thing, is that something a fire department? I'm just thinking the next time this happens, and it's going to. Our fire departments, I think they have big pumps. Is that something they can help with if I've got 8 feet of water?
Possibly. I'm not sure about what their capability is or how many people they could help, but I don't know what this is. Another, our department is small. We have 6 staff. We obviously have more volunteers, but this is not really our realm. Our role in this is to collect the damage assessment. We don't have really the capability to help them, but I don't know if you had 8 feet of water in your basement, does it go out naturally or do you have to pump it out? To be honest, I'm not sure. I don't have the technical knowledge to know that, but that's what, like I said, I felt this is almost inadequate because all these people have major impacts and we can't really do anything. And people call us, say, hey, is there some assistance coming? And we had to tell them, no, there's nobody going to show up and say, hey, we're here to clean out your basement. We're here to give you a check to replace your carpet and your drywall. Right now, there's none of that. The only thing there might be is a loan. So
I see Disaster Ready Kane as it grows, being able to do stuff like this.
yes.
And the last one, and maybe it relates to Disaster Ready Kane, but again, this is going to happen again. Could we start to get out in front of this? And I know it's like more work, but people that don't have flood insurance thinking, hey, I'm not in a floodplain, why would I get it? Helping communicate with people. Here's insurance you might want to get. We don't sell insurance, but you can go, cessation of business, a lot of home-based businesses that people like, never thought this would happen kind of a thing. Or just, flood insurance things and backups, that kind of stuff that we could say, hey, just think about it and go out. That maybe even, Julie Mann could do something about, consider stuff.
I think the Disaster Hurricane is a perfect vehicle for this because one of the functions of that will be public education and public outreach as business outreach. And so the idea is the Disaster Hurricane is a representation of the community. And you have people, and our role is we provide training to that group and technical expertise, and then they can go out and make connections and put on training classes and tell these stories. And I think that's why we wanted to start building this locally to Kane County, because there's other organizations like this around the Chicago area that technically cover Kane County, but the one that exists is called Northeast Illinois COAD, and they always get sucked into Chicago because there's a lot of need there. And we just saw that we needed this local. And so it's not my office that controls it, but we basically brought people together to say, hey, can we start this? And I'm asking you to do this. And then I want to go hands off and I want you to do it, which sounds kind of weird to ask people to do that, but that's what we've done. And they are, because they see the need as well.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Mr. Gripe. Okay, any other questions? Okay, Scott, carry on.
I have, so I think that's the end of my presentation, and I have 2 resolutions.
Okay, why don't you go ahead and introduce that first one?
So the first one is, if you remember a couple months back, I discussed with you a longstanding practice where we were loaning unmanned equipment like light towers and generators to communities for planned events. For instance, Elgin has Nightmare on Chicago Street. We would deliver to them light towers. They would set up, and they're mostly used as a contingency in case something happened. They would turn them on. Some cases they never even used them, but we were using volunteers to get them there and then bring them back, and it became a strain. And then when we had kind of a near miss with one of our volunteers that didn't damage the equipment, but we had a minor injury, and it really brought like, why are we doing this? And how, this has been something that's been going on years. And so I came and said, hey, we think we should formalize this. And I wanted to ask, and the committee said, yeah, I think we should do this. So this is formalizing that. We've come up with an agreement working with the state attorney's office and a form that we would enter into an intergovernmental agreement with each community that wants to do this. One agreement per community. So Elgin wants to borrow the light towers. They'll enter into the agreement with us. And then each time they borrow equipment, there's a form in the at the end of the resolution that we'd fill out. Essentially, like if you go to rent something at Home Depot or Rental Max, you fill out a damage waiver, you circle any damage that's existing, and then you fill if it takes gas, you fill it up before you bring it back. Where that's something we haven't been doing. Now it's a minimal amount of fuel. I mean, it's not going to change our fuel budget, but it's just the principle of it. If they're going to use it, they should pay for the gas. And so this authorizes me to sign those agreements with individual municipalities. And I don't have to bring each one of 30 of these to you to approve.
Okay, may I have a motion and a second to discuss and potentially approve the resolution?
Gripe moves.
Mr. Gripe moves.
Second.
Mr. Linder seconds. Okay, any questions, comments, discussion? Okay, may I please have roll call?
Grape,
Gripe, yes.
Gums,
Yes.
Linder,
Yes.
Pepe,
Pepe, yes.
Williams,
Williams, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Molina.
Molina, yes. Okay, this passes on to executive. Okay, Scott, go ahead and introduce that second resolution.
The next one is a resolution authorizing and accepting an hazardous material emergency preparedness planning grant, or HMEP. This is a grant that will, over 3 years, will fund a commodity flow study for hazardous materials, so that it will study. We know trucks and trains and things carry hazardous materials all the time, and we don't have any control. That's federal law that governs that. But this will study. It'll have a consultant that will identify the materials that are coming through the county, which will enable us to better plan for them. So if we know the materials that are coming through better, and we know what to plan for. So if a tanker truck turns over, we know what substances are coming through and all that. And this accepts that grant. It's around 33,000 over 3 years. They just issue the money individually. So because of the way the U.S. Department of Transportation does it, I'll add that even if the grant, even if next year they didn't find 11,000 for us, our special revenue fund that's donation based has enough money to cover the entire consultant cost. But we're just going to take the federal government grant as long as they're going to keep giving it.
Okay, may I have a motion and a second to discuss and potentially approve the resolution?
Gripe moves.
Mr. Gripe moves.
Leonard, seconds.
Mr. Leonard seconds. Any questions or comments? Good news. Okay, Mr. Leonard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Scott, one question with respect to this grant. I see there's a small percentage of matching funds. locally matching funds, but it looks to me like it's not really money, it's time and
Correct. It's,
administration.
it's in kind. It's my staff's time working on it, and any other county employees. So the way we work our grants is, certain employees are in different grants. So our EMPG is our big one every year. We make sure the person who's going to work on this, which is John mentioning, that he's the hazard material specialist. He's not in the EMPG grant. So then he's eligible for his time to go into this, where if he was in EMPG, we couldn't claim that for this grant. So that will be largely his staff time, as well as any other county employees that work on this.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, hearing and seeing none, may I please have roll call?
Grape,
Gripe, yes.
Gums,
Comes, yes.
Linder,
Yes.
Pepe,
Happy, yes.
Williams,
Williams, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Molina.
Molina, yes. Okay, and this passes on to executive. Okay, anything else for emergency management, Mr. Grape?
Just the last question, I hope won't have to ask every single time. Any concerns year to date, budget wise, total budget?
No, I'm not, we'll be within budget. I mean, we're probably under right now, but we're small. I mean, am I concerned about the budget overall? Yeah, it's not enough and we should be doing more. But as for the budget we have now, I don't have any issue with that right now.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Okay, next on the agenda is our Sheriff Adult Corrections. We have Under Sheriff Johnson here.
All right, good morning, Mr. Grape. This one's for you. Our monthly reports are on file, but we will go further into detail, I know, on Tuesday. All right. So I just wanted to kind of hit on several points too. So we had talked about on Tuesday with the county board, some of the average population that we experience in our corrections facility. So for our June population, also for Adult Justice Center, we had for our average monthly average 544. Please take into account that is also electric home monitoring. So we just wanted to make sure processed in was 635, processed out was 604. Again, that also includes electric home monitoring, because sometimes that's a little bit confusing as to why we're such an increase in that. Again, electric home monitoring in that. I wanted to make sure also too, with just mental illness, we are working as hard as we can. 42, actually, those are the self-reporting population. So again, with our mental health services, Lighthouse, and anything else that we can possibly do in starting a new mental health services, we are working as hard as we can and fast as we can in order to facilitate all of our detainees in this new program. And we're getting really positive feedback for that. So again, look at the expenses too, 16,000 and above. I think that's pretty maintaining standards for what we're looking at, obviously in 2026 and 2027 as to date for that. So I just wanted to at least make everybody aware of per month what we're expecting for our population. Now, again, when you see detainees housed in other jails, that also means different facets, different elements. It's not that we're increasing or maxing out. It's just different entities for Kendall County, DuPage County, or any of the above. So it's different elements, different examples that we're working with too. So keep that in mind. Going through also just our snapshot for diversion and reentry. The sheriff is.
Can we pause for a second? Mr. Roth has a
Nope,
question.
go ahead, Mr. Roth.
Yes, Roth here. Is it possible to break out the electronic monitoring as a separate number or subset?
Yes.
I mean, and then the other is what's the max in the jail? I mean, it's showing 635, which is misleading because the electric monitoring,
Yes.
but I know we're up and stuff and
Yeah, it's about.
hopefully we're not close, but
Yeah, we are close, but yes, it's about.
it would help to have the breakout. So then we know
Yes.
we're not filling up the jail.
And we have done that before, but I will
Right.
break that out with
Okay.
EHM versus what we have
Okay.
too. So thank you.
All
Excellent
right.
question.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry, carry
Thank-
on.
I can't see behind me, so thank you for letting me know. Diversion and reentry, we just did that snapshot too of all of what we're doing for anger management, all of these classes grant funded. So we are continuously looking at what we can do better for certifications moving ahead, again, grant funded. So continuously looking for those grants, looking what we can do better. And again, not spending tax dollars for this. So grants, so whatever we can find. Second page 2, diversion and reentry. I just want to make sure there's no other questions for that. Okay, good. And then since we talked about social workers, we do have 2 right now. Obviously, we can always use more based on our county population, but keep in mind for the total average and the active sessions that we had, we were only up to 1 until February. So again, for just the June totals, we had total cases of 83, and then total number of referrals for June was 278. Again, we only were working with 1 individual for our social worker until we were able to interview and have a second. So I think that speaks volumes. For March, it was 270 for a number of referrals. So for March and February, February is 222, she was working alone. So she did a fantastic job by herself until she was able to find somebody else. Our second social worker, no fault of anybody's, she went to another location. Absolutely, she was fantastic. So again, we have a second individual. She is doing fantastic also, but in what Ms. Guthrie had stated too for KingCom, we are also working on the horizon for the CESSA. That will also affect us too, because it's the CIT, it's the mental health, and how that will affect the sheriff's office. So the Illinois Sheriff's Association is working with us to see how that will not only affect the 911 position, but it will affect our call load. Because again, if law enforcement is not involved in that and it's a mental health crisis, how will that affect not only the CIT call out, but also our social worker call out? So we're continuously now working with a cohort right now and seeing again how that will be in 2027 and moving forward. So we will keep that on an update to see how that will be progressive. So any questions?
Okay, any questions? Was that the end of your report?
Nope, I just
Okay.
wanted to do 2 more to keep everybody updated. We are also working on 2 CBAs, just again, because we are always talking about budgeting. So we're working with corrections right now, and we're working with our civilians. It's not finished yet. So just to keep everybody updated on where we are right now in the negotiations process. And 1 on the horizon, because it's ever continuous. For 6 of them, we have court security sergeants also in the infancy stages. So again, corrections and civilians are continuously going. So we'll see where that ends up too and where we're at. And then the court security sergeants are just infancy stages right now. So that's it. So just on that in a nutshell.
Okay. Anything else for us?
Nope. And I just wanted to say thank you, OEM. Thank you, 911 and KingCom for everything too, because it was a heck of a ride also with the flooding and everything else too. So thank you.
Thank you, Under Sheriff Johnson. And I did have one question, just because I've been asked from some of my constituents. As the Under Sheriff, following chain of command, you're given operational oversight. So because of the chain of command, you're in charge of all operations if the sheriff is not available, correct?
Yes, the sheriff has put me in second in command.
And that includes signatory delegations. So if there is any kind of CBAs that do need to be signed, or if there's any kind of, pretty much you have been delegated the signatory for the sheriff's office. So you are able to sign on the behalf of the sheriff if the sheriff is not available?
Yes, the sheriff has put myself or any other designee, yes, in our contract and policies.
So there is no lapse in administrative paralysis. So there's no, I guess, what I want to make sure is that the public knows that there's no lapse. There's no, nothing is missing right now because you have been able to take control over the sheriff's office.
Yep, that's correct. Yep, chain of command.
Okay, any other questions? Ms. Gums?
I do have a statement and just I want to address it because I know it's a huge concern as far as our sheriff's department goes. And I have some opinions. So I did some research and double checked the laws, and it's my understanding that some folks are asking the King County Sheriff's Office to collect some data or gather data on the operations of immigration on our property. And I thought a lot about that question because I think everybody here in this county is upset about what's occurring. That includes our deputies and our sheriff and everybody else. But I would argue that the state should, if they want more data, maybe invest in gathering that data. I don't think that's any local law enforcement's requirement to do that. We have enough going on here, and I don't think we should be doing that. So I think the state should be doing that, and I want to publicly state that. And then also, as far as the immigration officers go, we're getting criticism from that side as well. If they want more officers, they should hire them. We're not doing their job for them. And I know that's going to come up later as well, but I just felt like it needed to be addressed that we're individually paying attention to it. We are having conversations. I'm paying attention to it. I'm sure all of you are as well. But I think we needed to address it out loud at some level.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Mr. Gripe?
Unrelated to that, but it's a grain of sand, but I just wanted to let you know, Amy, that Aunt Mary's storybook, which you probably have heard of, but at any rate, it's about to go back into process. I'd encourage you all to Google it sometime. I won't say anything about it. It's just a really cool volunteer. It doesn't cost taxpayers anything. We'll be going into the jail. They found some bald-headed, mustached idiot no, I've been trained. And actually, we're going to go in once a month to sit with the inmates and help them read books that go to their nephews, grandchildren, children. It's a really cool thing. I think it helps with the emotional stuff. The reason I mentioned it, it's not about me. It's about what it can do for the people in there. So I just want to let you know we're set for September and on.
Thank you.
Okay, and one more thing before I forget, because we did talk about this at Tuesday's meeting, is regarding the flock cameras and the King County's use of flock cameras. If we have a chance, I know the next 2 months are just ridiculously busy, but I'd like to have some sort of presentation as to our use, why we use the license plate readers and what use we get out of it. And then I'd also like to bring in somebody nonpartisan to discuss the concern with flock cameras in general. So if our committee is okay with that, it probably isn't going to be until October, just based on the way our committee structure is and our timing. But I think it's important to bring up, and I think it's something that our committee should kind of just touch base with the community on. Okay. Okay. Nothing else from our sheriff and adult corrections. We'll move on to our coroner.
Good morning, Madam
Good morning,
Chair.
Dr. Silva.
Actually, we're going to start off with my presentation, please. So I last took a look at my budget on July 6th. We were at 59.7% of the year, and I was very comfortable where we are with our budget. I will be coming forth in future meetings to allocate from one line item to the other, because we are trending a little bit higher in some line items than others, but overall it is built into our budget. One of those is in salaries, because we remain short-staffed. My concern isn't so much for this year. I think we're going to be fine. My concern is for next year, because recruitment and retention is a problem. My paradeputies start off at $18 an hour, and my coroner's deputies start off at $20 an hour. I don't think I have to say more about that at this point in time. Oh. Okay, so again, to Mr. Gripe's chagrin, I was not planning on looking too much into this and just stating that my reports were on file, because we do have a rather lengthy presentation, but I will take you through this just to remind you that cases that we are trending a little bit higher in June regarding our cases, and that I want to point out that one of our largest line items is autopsies. But I want to remind you that it isn't just only autopsies. This is the line item where we pay our professional forensic partners for evaluation of cases. So this is the line item where we would pay our forensic anthropologists or our forensic odontologists when we need teeth, we need to ID somebody through teeth. So it's not just autopsies. It is where we pay all our partners from when we have to identify individuals, or if one of our law enforcement partners has a concern about bones in a basement or in a wall, and they would like to have a forensic anthropologist there to be able to tell right away if those are human remains. Well, this is the line item that we would pay from. So this is our June comparison. Moving on, we had, regarding sign out cases, we don't know right away that this is a natural death. And remember, I'm not going to say my sole responsibility, but my statutory responsibility is to determine cause and manner of death. And if I don't do this right, well, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing my job. So in 7 of these cases, there was an autopsy needed to determine that this was a death related to a medical condition, but the circumstances prior to the autopsy did not point fully in that direction. And then we have unnatural cases. Now, these aren't all manners, but these are causes of death. And so I like to show you where things are happening in your jurisdictions. So we were able to save some money by determining that we didn't need to do some autopsies. And then I also want to remind you that while caseload is extremely high, there is a disparity. We don't have a crystal ball to be able to tell when the cases will develop. And so there may not have been many cases for our deputy who is on our nighttime shift, but then our daytime deputy is overburdened with the amount of caseloads. Also, I'd like you to keep in mind that while caseloads are important and they are trending high, this is a 24/7 operation. So whether we have a case or not on any particular Sunday, I have to make sure that we're fully staffed for those 24 hours. Okay, so moving on, sometime last year after one of our meetings, I went to the forensic lab and I asked our lab personnel, Sarah and Tim, who do a phenomenal job for us. I had anticipated some questions from the board. And so I went through the lab and we talked about questions that you might have. So we were able to put together this presentation to give you some answers regarding some of the questions that were brought up last month. And so I'd like to invite Sarah and Tim to the podium to give this presentation. I'd like to remind you that the forensic lab is a partnership between the coroner's office, the sheriff's office, and the state's attorney. I have a special interest in blood chemistry and toxicology now as the coroner. So I like to dabble anytime I can and get in their way to when they're working on their cases. But they've been very helpful to the coroner's office. In 2025, we spent $168,000 in toxicology alone. So this is an endeavor where each one of our departments will be able to save money, speed up our process when we're trying to decide if we have to pivot or go in one case or another, in one way or another. I know I've worked with the state's attorney and we've been able to get some results rather quickly on some of these cases. And for me, it's been great to be able to say, okay, I'm still sending this out to an accredited lab, but what do you find, Sarah and Tim? And we will finish up with some case studies, which I've asked them to include because I think this is going to be something where you're going to see that this is money well spent and why it's so important for the safety of King County.
Hey, good morning. My name is Sarah Ware and Timothy Rupel will be joining me for this presentation today. Thank you for this opportunity to give you an overview of the Kane County Forensic Lab. As was stated, this lab was created under the umbrella of the Kane County Coroner's Office, the Kane County Sheriff's Office, and the Kane County State's Attorney's Office. Thank you. So the most compelling justification for an in-house lab is that once we are fully operational, we'll be able to greatly reduce the time it takes to analyze evidence compared with sending evidence to outside laboratories, as we do now. For example, the coroner's office outsources to NMS Labs in Pennsylvania. This can take up to 3 months to generate results for postmortem toxicology, and this can delay the issuing of death certificates. For another example, it can take up to 1 year for Illinois State Police to generate a DNA profile. Another justification for an in-house lab is that we will be able to reduce the cost of outsourcing. Oh, we were on that. There, sorry, thank you. We're back here. So the Kane County Coroner's Office, as was mentioned, spends well over $100,000 a year right now on postmortem toxicology testing. And the Kane County court system spends over $70,000 a year on probationary drug screens. Okay. The main goals of this lab are the rapid generation of leads in criminal investigations, the streamlining of obtaining information related to pending court cases, and the ability to determine cause and manner of death in a timely manner for the grieving families in our community. So in these ways, the Kane County Forensic Lab will be able to benefit citizens of Kane County and the entire region. So this lab is currently located on the 2nd floor of the sheriff's office in what was formerly the exercise room. So you can see some before renovation photos here. The plan was to convert the large exercise room into 4 different laboratory spaces, 3 for DNA and 1 for seized drug analysis. Across the hall, we have office space and a place for evidence receiving. And across the parking lot at the coroner's office, we have an additional toxicology lab. Here you can see this renovation in progress. It was quite a renovation. In fact, we had to remove a skylight that you can see on the left and create 4 rooms from 1 room. Next, please. So this is the finished product. These are 2 of our rooms, 1 for drug chemistry on the left and 1 of the DNA rooms on the right. So we're very happy with this renovation space. So our funding to date has come from the opioid settlement funds as well as from several federal grants. $963,000 from Congressman Foster for fiscal year 24 is providing instruments to generate DNA profiles. So we have resolutions that will be presented today for the purchase of 4 of these instruments. $1,031,000 from Congressman Foster and Senator Durbin will be used to provide a laboratory information management system, or LIMS, which is software to streamline evidence submission and processing and to provide a secure record of chain of custody. These funds will also be used to validate instruments and workflow that are going to be instrumental in helping us become an accredited laboratory. And accreditation is very important for court purposes. $772,700 is being proposed by Congressman Krishnamurthy for fiscal year 27. And if we are funded, we will use these funds to purchase instruments for toxicology testing. We're currently working very closely with the Kane County State's Attorney's Office to establish a rapid DNA investigative leads program. So a rapid DNA instrument is the instrument that you see right there in the middle of the screen that can generate a DNA profile in 90 minutes. And then this profile can be uploaded to a local DNA database. So local crimes are most often committed by local criminals. So this local database is going to be essential. This investigative leads program can help solve many types of crimes, and that would be including property crimes that are not prioritized by Illinois State Police. So in addition to rapid DNA, we're currently establishing a conventional DNA program. So rapid DNA is used for the generation of investigative leads, but these must always be followed up by the generation of DNA profiles using the conventional DNA workflow. This is very important for court purposes. So, and after the lab is accredited, we plan to seek certification to upload profiles directly into CODIS. We'll now turn the presentation over to Mr. Rupel.
Good morning. My name is Timothy Rupel. I'm the director of the chemistry area of the laboratory. Dr. Ware is the director for anything biology related, including DNA, of course. Let's go on to the next slide. We'll talk about some of the different things, success stories that we've had in the laboratory. Here's an example of a traffic stop on I-88 by King County Sheriff's Department. In looking into this vehicle, they find out that there's quite a bit of stuff in there that doesn't belong. Okay, so while some officers keep that vehicle at bay on the interstate, another officer brought a subsection of these items back to the laboratory, and within 1 hour, we were able to identify what they were. That was able to say, these things shouldn't be on the street. Okay, let's keep this person, let's keep this truck, let's confiscate all of this stuff. These are actually things that Illinois State Police would not be able to test. Okay, they will not do anything that I classify in the vapor cartridge area. Okay, they have a little igniter in them that can, if you try to take them apart, it can go poof and cause a fire. So they don't want to touch these things. We've developed a procedure to do this. Okay, so no problem to that. But we were able to seize this vehicle and bring it back, and more than 2,000 items in that vehicle were analyzed. Next slide, please. All right, here's something from Kane County Sheriff's Department also. This comes right out of the jail. Jailers find some, why are they tearing up these pieces of paper? And you got a bunch of pieces of paper that are circled in red there. What's in that stuff? What can you tell us? They bring it up from the jail, and within an hour, we were able to tell them what they're doing with this. Somebody from the outside is soaking this paper in controlled substances, bringing it into the jail either by mail or in person. Okay, tearing it up, and if you suck just one of those little pieces, it will get you high. Okay, in my day and age, 30, 40 years ago, we used to do this with LSD. LSD is not as popular anymore, but there are synthetic cannabinoids now that are doing the same thing. But we were able to take that out of the jail within an hour, and that same day, the jailers were able to reconstruct their policy of what they look for and how they can go in and seize that stuff and get those safety things out of the jail. Okay, let's go on to the next slide. Okay, this is back one more. Okay, there you go. This is not a Kane County Sheriff's Department case. This is another law enforcement agency within Kane County, and they are advised by a large retailer in the area. We found something in the bathroom, and we don't know what it is. Is there cause to be concerned? Okay, now again, Illinois State Police is not going to do this kind of a case, because if there is not a person that they can charge, they don't want to be involved. Okay, so this outside agency physically brought that into the laboratory. They stayed with me at the end of my elbow while I did the entire analysis. And an hour later, actually 45 minutes later, they were walking out the door with the printed report. Okay, it turned out that this stuff was cocaine. Okay, so it was a problem. It is a danger to the general public. I was floored that nobody came up and tried to claim it from lost and found at the department store. But this is something that state police cannot and would not do, yet our laboratory is capable of. Next slide. This is a smattering of some other cases. Dr. Silva said blood alcohol for the coroner's office. We've done several hundred of those, but within an hour. Is alcohol a problem in this case that we have on the table right now? Okay, we can't wait for 3 months in order to get some of this information back. Officers who are on the road, I get quite a few open beverage containers. Okay, is this alcohol? Okay, and yes, indeed. So we can take those drivers off of the street. Lower left-hand corner. This is a clean, unused 1 gallon paint can that contains some charred debris from a fire. Okay, and yes, indeed, it did have gasoline in it. The investigators need to know this like right now, as far as what how the investigation goes forward. This is the type of a case that Illinois State Police could do, okay, but it will take them 6 to 9 months in order to return an answer. Okay, we did this for them next day. Other cases that Illinois State Police will not do: baked goods, cookies, candies, edibles. We are able to do that. We have developed procedures. I've been in this field for 50 years. This is not my first rodeo. I've been able to do this at other laboratories around the world. Okay, let's go next slide. Future needs. First of all, this money that we're getting from for some of the instruments that we're purchasing, this is federal grant money that doesn't come from the coffers of Kane County. And that gives us some expensive toys to play with. Okay, but the hiring of additional staff is going to be needed in the future. This federal grant money will not cover salaries. Okay, it will cover all of the hardware, even some of the training, but no salaries. So that is the thing that we'll need to look at. Dr. Ware needs one person. She had, by FBI mandate, she has to have 2 people in order to do some of the traditional DNA work. She can do the rapid DNA work alone. But for the traditional DNA work, which we're just starting to outfit the lab for that, she has to have another person in order to do that by FBI mandate. The additional instruments for toxicology, we're just getting that set up right now. A year from now, we'll probably be in a better position for that. That's where some of the really expensive toys come in, $500,000 to $800,000 per toy. So funds from some of the pending grants will pay for stuff like that. I also need to tell you that we generate income from outside agencies. We do this for free for Kane County because they put us up in this nice newly remodeled space. But for other law enforcement agencies within the county, we can charge them for that. Okay, and that will help to defray the costs of salaries or future equipment or supplies. Next slide. Oh, okay, that's enough.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Mr. Leonard first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I would like to thank the Coroner's Department for what they're doing here. Not only are they bringing state-of-the-art equipment to our county, which will help give us resolution on whether or not we have dangerous drugs or chemicals in possession of a potential arrest, but it is also being funded through opioid settlements, federal grants from our different congresspeople. And this will handle not only our biological, our chemical, and our toxicology concerns, but it speeds it up dramatically. We will also be saving outside contract source money, and we will also be able to charge outside government entities for these services. So unfortunately, I have to leave, but I wanted to mention that I am in full support of all 3 resolutions. I think it's a great job that the Coroner's Department has done, and I thank Dr. Silva and her staff for what they have done. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Leonard. Any other questions? Mr. Roth?
Roth here. Good presentation, Dr. Silva. Going a little bit deeper, your presentation says the NMS lab takes 3 months. What's our expectation of the turnaround?
So NMS, on some cases, it's not, sometimes they trend a lot faster, but it can take, depending if, because remember, we can send something out and then that doesn't give us the answer we'd like. So we have to add to the panel. And that can take a long time. I think a realistic expectation can be anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks, sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on the case and their caseload. But from what I've seen working with Sarah and Tim, the turnaround time can be, I think it takes longer to turn on the machine and recalibrate it than it does to get the result.
Yes.
So we could get it back within an hour.
Blood alcohol in an hour, other toxicology, same day or next day. Now wait until we get to backlogged also, and it might be 2 days.
Okay. And then the state police can take up to a year. What's our expectation we'll be able to do?
How about for expectation for DNA?
So the analysis for DNA, even with the conventional method, the rapid method can be 90 minutes, which is very quick. But the conventional method, realistically, if it was a rush case, we could have same day or next day results. The testing doesn't take that long, but what takes so long with Illinois State Police is that there's a 6,000 to 8,000 case backlog, sorry. So that's why it takes so long for them. It will not take that long for us.
And then,
Might interject also that it's not trying to sell this product. Yes, this is our lab. We're very proud of it, but this is the reality of the Illinois State Police. So this is the reality that this is why we wanted to interject ourselves with this forensic lab to get our results to the victims, to the families, and to our officers and others very quickly instead of waiting on Illinois State Police, who are bombarded every single time with the entire state.
I mean, and part of the justification for this was we could then actually generate some revenue to help cover costs. Before we start doing that, do we have to get the machine accredited before you can go out to say DuPage or Cook or whatever? And then how long does the accreditation take?
Accreditation is a huge issue.
I understand. That's why I asked the question.
That can take 2 years. Okay, our timing has just started because we're just getting into the lab just now. But the DNA instruments are not all in there yet, so our timing has not started quite yet. But that is a huge issue. It is not a requirement to be accredited to do this work. But about 95% of all forensic laboratories in the nation are accredited. It is much easier to testify in court if you do have this accreditation. Doesn't mean you get the right answer. Okay, it just says that you've got all your ducks in a row to show that you are prepared to follow these written procedures. The other thing that I would like to mention is that the legislators that I've been speaking with, they are very, very much in favor of keeping Illinois jobs and Illinois money in Illinois instead of sending them to other places around the country.
I think last month, one of the question comes up, who are the competitors? I mean, there aren't really any in Illinois, right?
No, Illinois State Police won't do all of this stuff. We're not taking much business away from Illinois State Police.
Well,
They-
there's such a backlog. Yeah, they would welcome it, I would think.
DuPage County has their own laboratory, but they are by edict only allowed to do work for DuPage County.
And we don't have that limitation.
No, we do not.
Okay,
Okay,
thank
there
you.
is a private laboratory called NERCL, Northern Illinois Regional Crime Laboratory up in Lake County. They are a private laboratory. Okay, they can do things, and they do things for hire for other agencies. We just want to do that here. They do things for Lake County, some in Cook County. I've got 65 different police officers and sheriff's departments around the Midwest, not all in Illinois, that have said, we are interested in sending you work when.
So
you
we have
become
the
accredited.
customer base to go
Absolutely.
after. Yeah.
Matter of fact,
No.
the carrot at the end of the stick for me is Cook County.
Right.
Because they are spending more than $4 million a year with NMS.
Yeah. No, I think this is a great project and I congratulate everyone involved on it. And we need to invest in it to get the payback. So thank you.
And also, Mr. Roth, remember in 2025, we spent 168,000 in toxicology. So just that alone is something that in the long run will save throughout the years.
Okay, thank you. I did have just a few questions. Regarding your space needs, right now there's the two of you are employed and then there's the manager. Is Russell still the manager? Okay, so then the money that is staff that covers the staffing is from the opioid settlement fund.
Correct.
And Sarah, you mentioned Tim mentioned the need for an additional member for the biology lab portion of it. Is there any other staffing needs that are required right now, kind of in the next year or two? And has that been budgeted? And overall, who's in charge of putting together your budget? And is this being confined then to the coroner, or who's kind of in charge of the oversight of the lab? And that's a big question. Sorry, I'm gonna ask.
I don't know. Unofficially, I'm helping to provide some of the information. I don't think we have anybody that's in charge, one person, the sheriff's office, the coroner's office, and the state's attorney, all three of us. But I work closely with Sarah and Tim. Like I said, I have a special interest. Any of the three of us can take any of the blame, and the credit only goes to Sarah and Tim.
Because I'd like to kind of have an idea of direction of if they are looking for an additional staff member, who decides who that is, and then if that's going to be paid out of the opioid settlement fund. We have no purview over that fund. That's strictly the state's attorney. So I just it's not black and white how this is funded and how this is operated. So I'd like a little bit more definition of how this is all going to be handled in the future, because we need to build this and I want to make sure we know who's in charge of the building.
I think that's a great point, and it's been developing. I came into this was something that former coroner Russell was involved with. So that's something that we can talk about, the state's attorney, the sheriff's office, and myself, because I do think that there should be that structure. That's a very good point.
Mr. Gripe and then Ms. Gum. Okay, Mr. Gripe.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Two financial questions, by the way. I love the periodic table of elements tie. That's the first one is you mentioned some future funding from a congressman who isn't running again. So I'm wondering how that money comes or doesn't come because he won't be around to promote it. That's my first question.
Okay, so this is called community project funding with the federal government. We have been very successful. We have the $963,000 so far that we can spend against right now. Where we're at with the fiscal year 27 grant is that we know that will go for a vote in front of Congress in September. So it's already on the books for a vote.
Okay, great. And then the second question, I guess this is to Dr. Silva. I love all of this. And the great temptation is that, not a temptation, but it's a fact, this could generate some interesting revenue for the coroner's office. The temptation is, at what pace do I begin to swallow that work and then get to the point where, oh my gosh, we have so many agreements or contracts in place that now we're starting to get a backlog in cases. I don't necessarily need an answer to that. So I'm looking forward to the revenue opportunity, but just we need to be careful, and I'm sure you will be, in saying, let's not take on too much stuff that then puts us back, in a less enviable position.
So the important thing about that with any department, I think those are very key points that you bring in, very insightful with any department. And those of us that run a department have to look at our budgets, as you mentioned, and have to look at our staffing needs. So for you as a board member, when we sound the alarm that recruitment and retention staffing needs are important in what our staff needs, then that's where we have to have those difficult conversations about it's time to bring somebody on or it's time to stop the workload when we can. Some of us can't do that. But it's very insightful and I think it's definitely something we have to consider. We're very, very far from that point though, I believe at this point.
Yeah, I was, just to clarify, I was only referring to outside business, so to speak, not what your department would do, but we agree to take over work from the state police because they are so backlogged, that kind of thing.
Right.
Okay, any other questions, Mr. Tepe?
Thank you, Madam Chair. You posed some very interesting questions that I think really need to be resolved, but my encouragement would be to make sure that we keep this under one department. My opinion, that should be the coroner's department, that the funding should, as much as possible, be confined to that department. I'd hate to see us breaking up how it's taken care of because of funding. I'd rather see it being much more effective and let this committee and the finance committee deal with the detailed aspects.
Okay, Ms. Gums?
I just do have a comment on that. I think that's a very complicated ask. And I think what I would look for before we even get to my preference, which is really irrelevant in my opinion, but a business plan of what this is going to look like kind of idea. And I think that our three partners in this, you're right. We're very far away from where we end up being, but I'd like to see some sort of business plan before we decide on that kind of thing. So.
Yeah, and this is why it's so important to bring the board into where we are and the committee, because you will see things from a different angle. We're kind of stuck in the weeds and the nitty gritty and the every day-to-day operations, but you can help us oversee all of that. So this is a great opportunity for us to work in partnership and really develop this and move forward.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I know it's a lot of us have been waiting and patiently waiting and really excited to have you all here today. So thank you for the questions and the comments. And okay, we're going to move on because I think we're over our time. Our next committee should have already been started. So Coroner, Dr. Silva, you have 3 resolutions. If you want to go ahead and start introducing the first one.
Yes, so I have a resolution approving the purchase of 1 Crime Light ML Pro Forensic Evidence Screening Instrument for the Kane County Forensic Laboratory by the Kane County Coroner's Office. And so this instrument visualizes and documents evidence that may not be visible under normal lighting conditions, including biological stains and trace evidence. And while this isn't something that's going to be strictly used by the coroner's office, you've heard why it's important.
Okay, may I have a motion and a second to discuss and potentially approve? Ms. Gums moves.
Gripe second.
Mr. Gripe seconds. Questions, comments? Okay, may I please have roll call?
Grape,
Gripe, yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Linder,
Yes.
Tepe. I'm sorry,
Tepe, yes.
thank you. Williams,
Williams, yes.
Molina.
Molina, yes. Okay, this passes. Okay, then second one.
And I have a resolution approving the purchase of 1 Quant Studio 5 real-time PCR system for the King County Forensic Laboratory by the King County Coroner's Office.
Gums will move.
May I have a motion and a second to discuss and potentially approve? Ms. Gums moves, Mr. Linder seconds. Questions, comments? Okay, may I please have roll call?
Grape,
Gripe, yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Linder,
Yes.
Tepe,
Tepe, yes.
Williams,
Williams, yes.
Molina.
Molina, yes. Okay, this passes. Next one.
And so I have a resolution approving the purchase of 1 Spectrum Compact CE instrument and 1 Maxwell RSC 48 instrument for the King County Forensic Lab by the King County Coroner's Office for the generation of DNA profiles.
Okay, may I have a motion and a second to discuss and potentially approve? Mr. Linder moves.
Gripe
Gums will
second.
Mr. Gripe seconds. Questions, comments? Okay, may I please have roll call?
Grape,
Gripe, yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Linder,
Yes.
Tepe,
Tepe, yes.
Williams,
Williams, yes.
Molina.
Molina, yes. Okay, and that passes as well. Okay, Dr. Silva, thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, next on our agenda is Judiciary and Courts.
Good morning. I just want to share one thing with you this morning, that if you haven't seen the press release, Supreme Court Justice Rochford has appointed Attorney Andrea Zanker to fill the spot of retiring Circuit Judge Susan Clancy Bowles. The retirement is effective at the end of this month. Attorney Zanker will be sworn in on August 7th, and she'll take the bench on August 10th. So we wanted to share the good news with you. That is all this morning, but we're happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Ms. O'Brien. Any questions for our judiciary? Okay, we will move on to State's Attorney.
Good morning. Assistant State's Attorney Erin Brady on behalf of State's Attorney Moster, who had a conflict and could not be here this morning. Our reports are on file, and our finance officer, Mr. Hunt, is online and has some information to share with the committee if that is the will of the committee. Mr. Hunt, are you there?
I am here.
Okay,
Yes.
Mr. Hunt, go ahead.
Yes, Blair, did you, can you put the slide up, please? There we go. Our finance report that's on file is through June. We do it intentionally that way because it allows us to include the most complete month. There's always a lag in processing invoices and sometimes revenues that doesn't coincide. So ours is through June, which is a nice 6-month accumulation for analyzing and making the math easy. So in response to the request for updates, periodic updates, we've prepared this short slide, and essentially within the general fund, our revenues are at 53% year to date compared to the annual budget. Our expenses in the general fund are exactly at 50%, which would seem to coincide pretty accurately with a 6-month projection. You can see the far right-hand column is the FY27 proposed budget as it sits now, and our expenses are at 5% under, which include that unallocated reduction that was introduced to balance the budget. But the rest of the civil division has a net expense to the county of $2.7 million for FY26, and it is about $2.9 million projected for next year. And then if you could advance the slide there once, Blair. The rest of these are special revenue funds. I only detailed the major operating special revenue funds, which are all self-balancing by nature, so they really don't impact the overall fund balances for the year. They don't impact the tax levy. So next slide. These are all the major special revenue funds. We do have some other minor special revenue funds, which are pretty insignificant in terms of what their revenues and expenses are, but they all balance out as well. But the purpose of this report was simply to provide an update at the mid-year mark. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt. Any questions? No, thank you very much. Very informative. Okay, we will move on then to our public defender.
Good morning. Our reports are on file. In regards to our budget, a report on our budget, we are under budget at this time. I expect that we will remain that way and will be slightly under budget at the end of the fiscal year. We do have a number of invoices out for experts currently that were hired for certain criminal cases, but I do not expect that that will change the trajectory of our budget. Additionally, we have a social worker intern that will be starting in August. This is something that we do through Aurora University. Actually, the person who started it is here today, Cecily Carlin, who now works for the State's Attorney's Office, but she started that. It's a big help to us. It is not something that we have to ask the county for money for. We're able to use an intern to help the attorneys with certain things that they need from a social worker. We get them in August and they remain through the school year. So we have someone starting in August, which will be a big help for us. I did want to, I know Under Sheriff Johnson has stepped out, but I did want to comment on something that she talked about in her presentation. Yesterday, we had a training in our office by Lieutenant Aguirre and Maureen O'Connell from the jail. It was about their mental health pod. We were very impressed with what they are doing there with the mental health pod. They talked to us about teaching life skills, communication skills, providing treatment and reentry help. One of the, essentially, they're not just housing these individuals, but helping them to get back on their feet once they reenter into society and hopefully break some of the cycle so that they will not return back to the jail. One of the big things with our mental health clients that we see a lot is a lot of the offenses for which they get arrested for criminal trespass to land, disorderly conduct. So they are sleeping in areas that they have been told not to come to, and they end up getting arrested for that. So to be able to have some of these skills in the jail and to help them is a phenomenal thing. And we are really excited to see this pod grow and all of the good that it can do for our clients. So I just wanted to comment on that since she brought it up as well.
Thank you. Okay, any questions for our public defender? Okay, we will move on to Court Service Administration.
Good morning. So while we're talking about the budget, I'll give you some foreshadowing. Per your own packet of information for the last executive, it did show on page 14 that court services is about 600,000 under budget. We're actually closer to 700,000 under budget right now. And the reason for that is because of staff turnover. We're having a really hard time hiring for people to work with juvenile delinquents in the detention facility. In particular, we had 10 openings at one point. And you can see on page 463, this is a report that the JJC gives every month to show how many out of county residents are being housed, as well as the income derived from that, because of course we don't pay for that. It's not fair to the Kane County taxpayers. So each county pays for housing their own residents. So in June, you can see, and they've brought in, that amount is going up every month. They brought in 141,000. I expect that this will continue through the summer because it's a well-documented fact that when it gets warmer, more fights happen, more crime happens, and more people get arrested. It's just how it is. So this will continue to go up through the summer and it will decrease in the fall. So with that amount being under, just foreshadowing, we do have some aging cars in our fleet. They have been evaluated by the Kane County Department of Transportation. All of them were off the charts needing to be replaced. One is 19 years old. It has many miles on it. So we're currently working with purchasing to get an RFP for new vehicles. So I guess we'll take that through administration, which is normally how that goes, but just foreshadowing that you'll be seeing us do that soon. Additionally, in order to address the staffing issues at the JJC, we have made some adjustments to our collective bargaining agreements in order to increase the starting salaries. I've not brought that to you because, as you know, a good deal of our salaries are reimbursed by the state of Illinois. I've completed applications to the Office of Pretrial Services as well as the Administrative Office of Illinois Courts to have that reimbursement, that additional reimbursement to cover that cost to come back to Kane. So I'm awaiting word on their approval or disallowal of that. And so after I get those final numbers, I'll bring them to you. At this point, it is not going to affect my 2026 budget at all. I will not be asking for an increase. It also should not affect the 2027 budget at all, but because I anticipate additional revenue to be able to cover those costs. So there's not going to be a bottom line effect to the general fund. So I just want to put that out there. I didn't bring my facts and figures with me today to go over that in detail. I'm waiting for my responses from Springfield before I have those conversations. Also, I wanted to point out that we have a new sheet for you, a new statistics sheet for my reports on file every month. And that begins on page 460 in this month's packet. One interesting things we were talking about your analysis, we're just starting to see some positive tests for meth. We haven't seen a lot of meth in Kane County to date. It's just starting to creep in, especially in our specialty courts. I don't know what that means yet. Right now, overwhelmingly, the drug of choice is cocaine, and marijuana, but marijuana is legal. But cocaine is the illicit substance that we're seeing the most of. And with that, I do have one resolution that I'm looking for your approval on. So if you're ready for that, I can speak to that.
Yes, please go ahead and introduce that.
So this resolution is in support of the juvenile detention facility. There's something called the, we call it PREA for shorthand, Prison Rape Elimination Act. It calls for multiple ways for residents to be able to report sexual harassment or sexual assault should they experience that. And so this is a contract working with, oh my goodness, I forget it, Family Services Association of Greater Elgin, that they would be an independent party who could receive these phone calls so that they could get that information anonymously and then report us for investigation. I support this. It's clean. It's better to keep, the accused out of the reporting process. So I'm looking for your support on this.
Okay, may I have a motion and a second to discuss and potentially approve?
Linder move.
Mr. Linder moves.
Gripe second.
Mr. Gripe seconds. Any questions or comments? Okay, may I please have roll call?
Well,
Great.
Sorry,
Sorry, Mr. Gripe, go ahead.
quick question. I only know a little bit about this because of the training I had to go through to be able to go in the jail. I thought this PREA has been around for quite a while.
Since 2003, but I followed the county's code, and you require me to have limited duration contracts and periodically send them back out for bid.
Okay.
And so that's what that says.
Thank you.
Okay, no other questions? Okay, may I please have roll call?
Grape,
Gripe, yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Linder,
Yes.
Tepe,
Debbie, yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Paulina.
Molina, yes. Okay, that passes on to executive as well.
Awesome. And so
then
I
you
want
have
to
some news.
introduce.
Yes.
Yeah, so we have a new face here. So Dr. Sang is here. She's going to give a presentation, and some of her staff are here, which is very awesome. And she's just been accredited. So I'm going to let her share that good news and give you a presentation.
Great. Okay. Well, good morning. Thank you for allowing me to share our good news with you. 12 years ago, I stood before this board as a newly appointed director, and I talked about the need to move us from what is fondly referred to the Pizza Hut building on Fabian Parkway to our new location where we have been for, I think we're going to celebrate 10 years this year. Part of the reason and for that was to allow us to finally pursue accreditation by the American Psychological Association, the APA, for our doctoral internship program. So I'm going to just kind of take you through a brief timeline, the process and what that means for this county. So this is the Pizza Hut building. So the diagnostic center for the newer faces around the boardroom, it was actually established in 1975. And that location really gave us a good basis for establishing the presence of forensic psychologists within the court system and how we can be useful to the judicial system and giving our expert opinions and all the things the services we can provide. So we have been actually providing this service to Kane County for 5 decades, believe it or not. And in terms of the timeline, we had been, APA accreditation was just kind of this vision and a long-term goal for us for a long, long time until we moved to the Randall location, which is where the Kane County Branch Court and the Circuit Clerk's building is. And then, so about 2 years after we moved into this building, we really actively started pursuing the process for APA accreditation and by establishing a task force. Unfortunately, we met much of the criteria right before COVID, and then COVID hit. So all the site visits, because part of the process of APA is you need two representatives from APA, which is housed in Washington, DC, to come and look at us. And we had a lot of kind of misfortunate events between COVID and then APA canceling and just all this. So this has been a long, arduous process. And I went completely gray and have new wrinkles to show for it, but it's very well worth it. But the move really, and the county was really in support of this move, but it really allowed us to not only have modern state-of-the-art space, but really to expand some of our services. So, we were able to hire a few more staff and have more treatment rooms and just expand what we do. Just so you know, for those who are not as familiar with the diagnostic center, most of the work our bread and butter is to provide court-ordered evaluations for the court system. So evaluations are a huge and the majority of what we do. But we're actually a very comprehensive forensic facility. We do run the Kids First Divorce parenting program, offer some treatment, a lot of expert testimony, consultation for public defenders and state's attorney's office. We're just available as needed. We do the pre-employment screenings for Michelle Guthrie here and 911 dispatch. So we're kind of all over the place. But it's really the evaluations that are the driving force of our existence. So after many years and after just having this vision, finally this last January, we had our site visit for two representatives that spent 2 days at the diagnostic center and met with Chief Judge Villa, Lisa Aust, interviewed the entire staff, interviewed alumni of our internship program. It was a pretty extensive process. We also had to submit, I think it was a 120-page report, basically everything about us. So they finished their site visit in January, and then we were told it would be about a year, not to hold our breath until December, possibly even January because of their backlog to hear from us. But to our surprise, just in May, so just a few months later, we got the word that we obtained accreditation. So finally, we were very, very happy with the timeline too, because this will apply to the future interns that will be applying this fall to us for the 2027-28 internship year. So this is really a huge deal for us because APA is the gold standard in our field. There is no higher accreditation that you can have. And our internship program, it's a doctoral internship program, but it's also for Northern America, so US and Canada. So it's a big, big national accreditation body that has very obviously rigorous standards. That's why it took years to get this. But I think we did a really great job, and that's why we're here. So it was definitely a shared achievement. Every single person on staff has contributed, has been through the highs and lows of the emotion. We worked so well as a team, and that moment was such a proudful moment for all of us. I brought my team. I invited my staff here because a lot of times I'm kind of the public face for the diagnostic center, but you don't really see the talented staff I have that really make all the evaluations work and are just involved in the entire system. Most of them were able to make it, and I am going to embarrass them and introduce them. And if they could stand when I say your name, because I think it's important for you as a board and for them to have that acknowledgement, which was years of work. It was half a decade for us to finally obtain this. So here we go. I'm going to start with the front row. Peyton Mackey, stand up. She is one of our current interns from Arizona. So she's spending the year with us full time, learning how to be a forensic psychologist. Then we have Dr. Elisa Lancaster. She was especially integral to our accreditation. She is in charge of the internship program. And I have to give her additional kudos because Dr. Lancaster has been nominated as president-elect of ACIPT, which is a local, I don't even know how to explain this. It's a whole complicated process in our field, but it's a local Chicagoland chapter of doctoral practicum students who will become future interns. Well, it was a very, very competitive process, and with flying colors, she is now president-elect of ACIPT. So extra kudos. And I'm just proud at the leaders in at the diagnostic center. And Brandy, I could barely see you. Brandy Vera, I hope she's not going to go into labor from excitement right now. Brandy Vera used to be a practicum student with us, went out into the world and decided this is her dream job, and that's a direct quote. She is finishing up her postdoc fellowship with us, and I have offered her a staff psychologist position come mid-September. So she will remain with us and continue doing great work. Then on the other side, I have Adrienne Lakey. She's my other intern, and she also just got a postdoc fellowship on the East Coast in a forensic center. So I think we trained her pretty well. Ellis O'Connor. Ellis is here and she's an integral part of staff, does a lot of fitness to stand trial cases. So for those of you in the system, you probably have seen her signature on the reports. Stephanie Galley, she's the AA of the Diagnostic Center, does a lot of good work, helps make everything run and case management and caseload. So thank you. And Jessica Marevka. Jessica was also a practicum student here several years ago and then came back to do her postdoc and is now a staff psychologist. So that's the team.
Thank you all.
So just breaking it down in numbers, currently we are a staff of, not counting myself, 7 forensic psychologists. I have 2 postdoc fellows, 2 or 3, depending on which year, interns. And together we have multiple, we actually need 2 licensures in to do this work. And we all have our doctors and most of us also have our masters. So high level of specialized training. So just some numbers only with the interns. So the interns do a lot of our psychological evaluations, a lot of our post-conviction cases, which affects Lisa Ost's probationers. But over the last few years, just to give you an idea, marketplace value of the work this internship provides is way over $1 million. So we are saving that much just, I'm not even considering the staff. But the work that the interns do, it's really a key contribution to the diagnostic center. And why is this internship program important to you and why you should know about it? Well, I think the next steps is interns, as you can kind of see with a lot of former, most of our current staff actually have been interns here and have stayed to do their postdocs and then become staff. So it's a great pipeline for future forensic psychologists at the Diagnostic Center. With this accreditation program, we will definitely attract interns that we otherwise would have lost to the federal system, the federal government. And so we are expecting a lot of talent and more numbers in terms of application. And why this is important is over the last few years, we have had neighboring jurisdictions. For example, DuPage County, the chief judge in DuPage County came to the Diagnostic Center. McHenry County has been to the Diagnostic Center, Will County, and they want to utilize our services. Well, right now it's not sustainable. I mean, we have to focus on Kane County because I just don't have the staff or the space to provide those services. However, with this APA accreditation, we are next goals for the diagnostic center are looking at possibly expanding and becoming a regional diagnostic center in a limited fashion. I mean, would be step by step to provide these services. And the good news is we would charge market value for our services, and this would be potentially a big, significant revenue growth for the county. So that, because again, what we do is so specialized, you can't just go and get these services in the community so easily. Yes.
I have a quick question,
Yes,
just
Ms.
so I
Gumbs.
don't forget, Gums here. Thank you, Madam Chair. When you're looking at that vision in your
Yes.
brain, what space requirements, like what are you thinking? I just, off the top, I know it's a
Absolutely. Great question. Right now, we are just doing kind of a space and needs analysis. So we're looking at this is just in very early stages, infancy. So we're just evaluating our own space and our own staffing needs.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Singh. Okay, any other questions?
Yes. And just one more slide, just so you know that Justice Elizabeth Rochford came yesterday to meet with Judge Villa and I and to talk about the diagnostic center and the possible future expansion for it. So she took a very, vested interest in this possibility. And so we were very proud to have her. She was able to walk around and meet some of our staff, and this is like my Hollywood moment, standing in a celebrity moment. So yes, and I believe that is all I have for you.
Thank you. So
Thank you.
a lot of exciting things.
Yes.
So I'm very excited for you and congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Any questions or comments? Okay, thank you so much. Oh, Miss Ellen, I see you.
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to ask, even though we have not had that supreme accreditation, we have been, I believe, a destination point for many interns wanting to work with you and your group. Can you tell me how many interns over the years you have had?
Over the years, I myself was an intern here in 1999, and it's been about 3 interns a year. So I can't do the math this quickly, but many interns. We take 4 diagnostic practicum students a year, and about in the last few years, it's been 1 or 2, just because we weren't APA and accreditation, but historically we had been taking 3 up to a few years ago where it was 2. So over several decades, that's hundreds of interns.
And well-trained, and congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Miss Allen. Okay, we will move on our agenda here to our circuit clerk.
Good morning, Karen Herwick, Chief Deputy for Teresa Barrero. My reports are on file, but just a couple of things to note. In the first 6 months of the year, case filings across the board are up 9%. We're seeing additional workloads in volume of e-filing documents coming in, seeing more phone calls, people coming into the offices and the satellite offices looking for help. So it's pretty busy. With this, I expect that will continue, especially with the summer months and traffic citations and different things that we're seeing some uptick on, that we'll see that continue to be the case over the next several months for sure. One of the concerns that Circuit Clerk Barrero has right now is retention of our trained deputy clerks. And those are clerks that usually have about 2 to 5 years worth of employment with us. That's about the time that we're seeing that they are moving on, whether they move on to another county office, judicial office, or they leave the county altogether. That's where we're seeing a little bit of a trend taking place, and we're working on trying to figure out how we can keep these people a little bit longer, because those are the people that really at this point are now trained to be able to go into the courts and proficiently clerk those courtrooms, some of the jury trials and stuff like that, versus the newer people that are not quite ready to go based on the amount of time that it takes to train. So we are watching that very closely. Currently have 3 vacancies, and we do need to hire those. And so we continue to work on that as well. Budget is looking okay. The only real highlight is that with overtime, we are not over the budget, but we are watching that because of the fact that we only have court overtime in the office. So anything that we have is not something that the circuit clerk just says we need to do. It is because there is work in the courts and is requiring the clerk to be there under the statute. So we are watching that. We are also watching the weekend amount of the first appearance courts, because of the fact that those are full work days for our clerks. Maybe the courts are done at the 4-hour mark, but our clerks may still be doing data entry and finishing up all of that. And it could be that they're there 7-8 hours doing the work. So we are watching that. So those are just some things to highlight.
Thank you, Karen. Any questions for our circuit clerk? Mr. Gripe?
Just curious about the year-to-date update for the budget. How are you doing? How do you feel?
We're doing, like I said, we're doing fine. We continue to have in the general fund, personnel leaving. So it is taking us, time to be able to rehire. And most of the people, when we're rehiring at, a new rate, but there is some savings because a lot of these clerks that are leaving us are, anywhere from 2 to 5 years. And so there is a little savings there. We are watching how all of that goes as this budget year continues on, but Circuit Clerk Barrero does need to fill those positions in order to be able to staff the courts.
Okay, little more generally, are you at, below, above the budget year-to-date?
We are where we need to be right now. Overtime is, like I said, an area that doesn't really add up because it varies so much based on what is going on in the courts on a week-to-week basis and what that looks like. And so it will vary. And I think that it's going to balance itself out in some areas as well. So I am not worried about what some of that looks like in the general fund right now.
So if I were to interpret that, not to beat a dead horse, but it sounds as though you're no more than 50% above or below budget.
We're right. We're where we need to be.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gripe. Any other questions? Okay, we will move on. Is there any old business a committee would like to bring up? Any new business? Okay, I'll entertain a request, consent to place reports on file.
It's consent.
Any opposition? Hearing and seeing none, reports are placed on file. We do have a need for executive session. It should be very short. Thank you, everybody, for being here. It was a great meeting. Okay, may I have a motion and a second to go into executive session for the release of closed session minutes?
Gripe moves.
3 seconds.
Mr. Gripe moves, Mr. Tepe seconds. May I please have roll call?
Gripe,
Thanks.
Gums, Linder,
Yes.
Tepe,
Steppy, yes.
Williams,
Williams, yes.
Molina.
Molina, yes.
Okay, online folks, please accept the invite. A reminder to anyone in the room that has joined via Zoom, you must exit the Zoom prior to us being able to go into closed session. Otherwise, watch for those invites.
Going back and forth. May I please have roll call?
Grape,
Right here.
Gums,
Gums here.
Linder,
Good here.
Tepe,
Tepe here.
Williams,
Williams present.
Leonard, Molina,
Molina present.
Roth is here.
Okay, we have a quorum. I'll request a motion to vote on the release of closed session minutes as exhibited in as
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 presented.
presented in Exhibit A.
Right moves.
Linder second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
I'll
minutes are
abstain
approved.
for the record.
Oh, then we should vote.
she should vote, yeah.
We need a roll call?
Yeah.
We need a roll call on that?
Okay.
Okay, we'll take a roll call.
Grape,
Right, yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Linder,
Linder, yes.
Tepe,
Tepe, yes.
Williams,
Abstain.
and Molina.
Molina, yes.
They're released.
Okay, the minutes are released. May I have a motion and a second to adjourn? Mr. Gripe moves.
Second.
Mr. Linder seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, we